Philadelphia, home of the Liberty Bell, Rocky Balboa, cheesesteaks, and one of Redskins Nation's most hated enemies. Since 1934, the Redskins and Eagles have squared off in some of the most memorable games in each franchise's history. Whatever the record, whatever the standings, when these two teams meet, expect a classic NFC East slugfest. The early years of the rivalry were marked by Redskins dominance, with Washington winning 16 of the first 18 games in the series. In the late 50s, the Eagles gained the upper hand, one they strengthened further when Sonny Jurgensen became their starting quarterback in 1961. Under Jurgensen, the Eagles went 4-2 against the Redskins, but in 1964, a blindside hit to Jurgensen's career would give Washington their most lethal offensive weapon since Sammy Baugh.
I was having lunch and the guy walks in and said, "See where you were just traded to the Washington Redskins." I said, "Don't tell me that." I said, "That's not true." I said, "You're just kidding." He said, "No, I'm not kidding. I just heard it." I couldn't believe it. I was shocked.
In his first game against his old team, Jurgensen and the Redskins made it clear who'd gotten the better end of the deal.
Adolph Christian Sonny Jurgensen throws his 5th touchdown pass of the game as he lays it on the Eagles with a scoring shot to Taylor. Jurgensen wins the battle of the quarterbacks and Washington wins the war 35-20.
Throughout his Redskins career, Jurgensen had more success against the Eagles than any other team. He drove the point home in his final matchup against Philly in 1974. Hobbling off the bench to replace an injured Billy Kilmer, Jurgensen worked his magic one more time in front of the Philly faithful, leading the Redskins back from a 13-point third-quarter deficit to a crucial 27-20 win. The Eagles weren't much of a threat through the 60s and 70s, but when Dick Vermeil took over as Eagles head coach in 1976, Philly's stock began to rise. By the time they faced the Redskins in the '82 season opener, the Eagles were only 2 years removed from their first Super Bowl appearance. On the other side of the field, the unproven Redskins, under second-year head coach Joe Gibbs, remained a question mark. By the end of the day, question marks became exclamation points in what many call the most exciting game of the entire NFL season. Down 31-27 with less than a minute remaining, the Eagles' Harold Carmichael capped a 90-yard drive with a circus touchdown catch, but the Eagles' victory celebration was premature. Gibbs' growingly confident offense still had time to put the ball at the outskirts of kicker Mark Mosley's range. Mosley delivered on a 48-yard field goal that tied the game as time expired. And in overtime, he drilled a 26-yarder, officially snatching victory from the jaws of defeat.
We had done something incredible. We'd won a big football game. We did something on the road that people didn't expect. Nobody expected the Redskins to be that good.
In 1986, the Eagles welcomed a coach worthy of their bad boy image, Buddy Ryan, one of the few coaches able to get under Joe Gibbs' skin. Before a Monday night matchup in 1990, Ryan vowed the Redskins players would be taken off the field in body bags. Sure enough, during what would become known as the body bag game, 9 Redskins, including the only 2 active quarterbacks, left the game due to injury. But revenge would be sweet, and in the 1990 NFC wildcard game, the Redskins would taste it. Their 20-6 domination of the Eagles at Veterans Stadium effectively took out 2 birds with 1 stone. It was the end of the Eagles season and the end of Buddy Ryan's career in Philadelphia. He was fired the next day. Gibbs retired in 1992 with an 18-8 career record versus the Eagles, but for the next 13 years, under 4 different head coaches, the Redskins would spiral to a 6-18 record against their Pennsylvania neighbors. But in 2004, Gibbs returned, and by the last game of 2005, his Redskins were primed for the postseason once again. Their only obstacle, an Eagles team relishing the role of spoiler. It was a close-fought contest for much of the day, and the Eagles were up 20-17 heading into the fourth quarter. But when the team needed him most, Clinton Portis delivered perhaps his greatest run as a Redskin. An inspiring touchdown giving the Redskins the lead. Minutes later, Sean Taylor's 39-yard fumble return put the game out of reach, and the Redskins were headed to the playoffs. Later in the decade, the Redskins would again turn to Clinton Portis versus the Eagles. Week 5 of 2008, behind the likes of Pro Bowlers Chris Samuels and Mike Sellers, Portis would gain 185 yards and a touchdown. The Redskins would win 23-17. November 18, 2012, Robert Griffin III would go 14 of 15 and 4 touchdowns in a win over the Eagles. In the third quarter, it was Santana Moss with an incredible effort, going over 2 defenders and diving into the end zone as the Redskins won.